welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah. Merry Christmas. This is just going to be a quick little video and I wanted to show sort of what I've been up to in December, which isn't a whole lot, to be honest. I had a few plans that didn't come to fruition because of the weather. I was supposed to travel down to see my friends in Chester, but I couldn't go because I was ill and the weather was awful. All the trains were cancelled, so didn't do that. Gonna do that in January instead, and I was supposed to have a bonfire with my friends and swimming on the beach, but that also didn't go to plan because it was too windy. We did go for a dip and it was intense, so we had food to eat, but it was too windy, so we went round to a friend's house and ate there, and that was really nice. But yeah, just a lot of things haven't quite gone to plan, and that's fine. I find the festive period quite overwhelming. Like, I love Christmas, but it's just a lot. There's a lot going on, there's a lot to keep on top of, and even though you've got, you know, like the festive lights and everything looks pretty and it's cozy, it's still like we're just heading into winter and it's just dark all the time, and it can be quite miserable, I think. And for me, as somebody who is neurodivergent, I find Christmas stressful because, well, there's a lot of pressure to like be happy all the time and to just like want to get into the festive spirit and go to parties and things, and that's just not who I am as a person. And also I feel like I can't focus on anything. Like, I'm really struggling at work at the moment because it's Christmas. It's not just that like, oh, I don't want to do any work because it's Christmas. It's like I find it really hard to focus on anything other than like Christmas Day. I don't know how to explain that. Like, my brain's in waiting room mode. It feels like I have an appointment, and so the last couple of weeks I've just been like, well, I can't do anything because it's nearly Christmas, and my brain doesn't make sense, but that's sort of how I've been feeling. Like, my diet has really suffered, and just my exercise, I've fallen out of my exercise routine, and I just don't feel particularly good in myself. So I'm excited for Christmas. I like Christmas Day, particularly because it's just like a small family day and it'll be really special and just nice to have a bit of time off work to relax. But I find it very difficult, and I'm quite looking forward to it being over and just being able to get back to like my normal routine. But anyway, after that ramble, you just saw a few clips of my December and like what I've been up to. And I just wanted to chat about some of the books I've been reading. I wanted to film a vlog of reading like wintry books, but I just haven't had the time to film, you know, like a sit down update for after each book I've read. So I thought I will just put all the b-roll at the beginning and then I'll talk to you now about the books that I've read, because I've read some good ones, I've read some bad ones, but I've also read some good ones. So maybe we'll start with the first one I started reading. That was Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. I liked this one. I think there was a little bit too much like political intrigue. This is a fantasy book. I don't think it made it a bad book. I just think I'm not all that interested in like political intrigue fantasy. So we're following a girl called Miriam, who is the daughter of a moneylender. Her family is Jewish and they're kind of like pushed to the outskirts of society anyway. And her father's not a very good moneylender in that he just feels sorry for people and doesn't ever chase the debts that he's owed, and so his family's very poor, and Miriam is just one day just sick of being hungry, sick of being cold, and just takes it upon herself to go and collect all of the money that's owed to them, and she's very ruthless about it, as she should be. It's their money, but she sort of gets a reputation in the village that they live in as quite a tough money lender, and her mum and dad aren't that happy about it because they've raised her to be more of like a passive, sort of caring, empathetic person, and they think that sort of by what she's doing she's not being that kind of person, and she gets this reputation for turning silver into gold essentially, and she becomes quite wealthy and catches the eye of a Staric prince, and the Staric are like a fae like creature that sort of terrorize the village. And one day one of these Staric leaves a purse full of silver on Miriam's doorstep, and it's expected that she will turn this into gold. She does this because she's scared of them, and keeps doing this, and in the end he's just like, I will reward you and take you for my bride, even though she doesn't want to, and he doesn't really want to either, but he's made this sort of commitment to do that, so he's like, I have to honour it, and takes her off away from her family, and just isn't that nice to her. And her story sort of evolves from there. There's also another two characters. We also follow Vonda, who is like a peasant girl from the village who ends up working for Miriam and has to flee the village after something happens. I don't want to tell you any more about that. And also Irina, who is the daughter of a duke and is wed to a Tsar who is possessed by a fire demon. And yeah, that's the basic premise of the book. I did enjoy it. I think I liked the atmosphere a lot. I liked the characters, but I wasn't hugely enamoured by the plot, and I found myself sort of not massively paying attention to that. I'm just really enjoying like the snowy vibes, because it's set in the winter and like an extended winter, because the village sort of is plagued by like a prolonged winter essentially. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I think I would read another book by Naomi Novik. I do really like a fairy tale retelling. This is a retelling of Rumpelstiltskin, I think. Yeah, it was nothing special, but I definitely would give Naomi Novik another go. I've already tried reading A Deadly Education and I just don't think that is for me, but yeah, her other fairy tale retelling, Uprooted, I think I will like, so yeah, I will try that at some point. I then read One by One by Ruth Ware, and I was kind of just in the mood for a thriller. I've read a Ruth Ware before. I've read The Woman in Cabin 10 and I didn't think it was very good, but Ruth Ware always gets really sort of high praise from people who read thrillers a lot, and I didn't like One by One either. I think the characters are really poor and cringe, and the plot was just ridiculous, and it wasn't even that like compelling, I don't think, as a story. It just did nothing for me. So following people who work for this company called Snoop, which is like a bit like Spotify, like an upgraded version of Spotify. Didn't really care for that aspect of it. They're all terrible people, and I'm following them and Liz, who's travelling with them, who doesn't work for them anymore but used to, and she's sort of still linked to the company in some way that we don't really know at the start how she's linked. She's a bit of an outcast, everyone always forgets her, and they go to the chalet in Switzerland, like a really high-end chalet where they're just like renting it for the weekend. They have two hosts there and they get snowed in, and then people just get murdered one by one. That's basically all that happens. I just didn't think it was good. I didn't care about any of the characters. I didn't care who was killed. I didn't really care who did it. I thought it was like the motive for it was just stupid. And yeah, it wasn't for me. At the beginning of every chapter, like, because it's multiple or dual perspective, I think there's just two perspectives, maybe a few more, but it just gives like the Snoop user ID and like what they're currently listening to, and I'm just like, why? We don't need that. That added nothing to the story. It just made it really like boring, and just I just didn't care. And I don't think, maybe I'll try The Turn of the Key. Is that what it's called? The Turn of the Key, Ruth Ware. I think that's the most well-known one, but I just don't think Ruth Ware is the writer for me. I then read Moominland Midwinter. I listened to this on audio, and this is so cute and wholesome. I loved this, and I'm going to read all of the Moomin series from now on. I started listening to this audiobook, and it was opened with a child just being like, you're listening to Moominland Midwinter, and I was just like, I am absolutely not listening to this if that child is narrating it. And then just like, and over to the narrator, it's like, oh good, it's not going to be the child. And then they said Hugh Dennis. I just don't like Hugh Dennis. The poor man, he's done nothing to me. I just find him very irritating. So I thought, I'm not going to enjoy this because I don't want to listen to something that's narrated by him. But he was really good, and I'm glad that I listened to it. He did lots of different voices, and he just, yeah, he narrated it so well, and it was just a really cosy, sweet children's fantasy, and I felt very nostalgic reading it, even though I'd never read the Moomins before. We're following Moomin Troll, who's a little Moomin creature, and his family go into hibernation for the winter, and he inexplicably wakes up and can't get back to sleep. So while the rest of his family is hibernating, he goes out into this very scary, strange landscape that's very alien. He doesn't know anyone. All of his friends have gone elsewhere for the winter, or they're also hibernating, and so he's just meeting lots of different people and making new friends and learning to appreciate this harsh landscape and not to be scared of it, learning that there is like light to be found in the winter. And I thought it was just a really nice, sweet message. It was very just of its time, I think, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It just reads a lot like Pippi Longstocking, like that kind of fantasy from that kind of period, and I love that. I think that's what made it so nostalgic to me, is that even though it's nothing like Pippi Longstocking, just it reminded me a lot of it in terms of the way it was narrated, and I loved it so much. It was really cute. Absolutely fell in love with Tutiki and Hugh Dennis's narration of that character. She had a Scouse accent in it, so she sounded like Ringo Starr, and it was so nice. I thought the Scouse accent was a really good choice for the kind of character that she is. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. There's not a lot that happens. It's just a very cute, cozy children's fantasy. It's only a couple of hours long on audio, has sound effects, and it just made me feel like warm and cozy, and it's definitely one that I would like to read with my son when he's a little bit older. Just absolute top tier children's book, I think. Off the back of that, I also read Moomin and the Ice Festival, I think it's called. This is just a little picture book. It's aimed at children a bit younger than Moominland Midwinter. I'd say probably around about like 5 to 7, and it's just about Moomin Troll again, and he goes out to experience this ice festival. It's just really beautifully illustrated. There's lovely pictures of the Northern Lights, and it's definitely nothing special, nothing amazing, but it was really cute, and I think it's a really nice children's book. I would definitely pick up a copy of it for my own child. Then finally, for the books I've finished reading in December, we have Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. I adored this book. It was perfect to me. Best book I've read this year, hands down. I loved So Late in the Day when I read that earlier in the year, but this just completely topped it for me. It was so special. This is following a man called Bill Furlong. He is a coal merchant in Ireland in 1985, and it's just in the run up to Christmas, so a couple of days before, and it's him sort of getting his family ready for Christmas, getting the business ready for Christmas, and it's just a really beautiful slice of life. I love the character of Bill. Bill came from a family where he didn't know his father, and he was raised by a woman who had employed his mother as a servant, and it talks a lot about attitudes towards unwed mothers in Irish society, sort of as he was born, like at the end of the Second World War, and in the not present day, but like present for then, so like in the 1980s to the early 90s. It examines the Magdalen laundries in Ireland, and I thought Bill was such a complex, nuanced character. I really felt so warmly towards him, but he definitely has his flaws, and he's a very self-aware character. I don't want to say much more than that, other than just so beautiful. A lovely character study packed into such a short book. It's a little more than 100 pages, I think. I listened to this on audio and loved that experience, but I'd also like to read it physically as well. So I'm going to buy myself a copy. I sent a copy to my mum for Christmas as a Christmas present because I think she will really like it. Yeah, just so quiet and impactful in a way that I wasn't expecting it to be. It made me sob. Like, I was crying. I listened to it in 2 sittings. So the first one, I was on my way home from swimming on the bus and I sobbed, and then the next time I was walking to Home Bargains to buy a charcuterie board, and that's when I finished it, and I was just like sobbing and just like, what is even the point? What is the point in me going to get this charcuterie board? Just left me feeling so desolate and bereft, but in a good way. I loved it so much, and I just want to read everything that Claire Keegan has written now. I had heard a lot of hype for this book and always thought like, oh, I don't know if that's something I would be interested in, but I've wanted to read it since I read So Late in the Day and loved that so much, and just because it's set in the days leading up to Christmas, it's just the perfect read for this time of year, and I think I will make it my tradition from now on to read that book on Christmas Eve. I have 2 more books on the go. I'm reading The Christmas Appeal by Janice Hallett. I'm not really enjoying it, I'll be honest. I loved The Appeal. I read The Examiner earlier this year, did not like that at all, thought it was really bad. And I think I'm probably done with Janice Hallett. The Christmas Appeal is just, we're following, like in The Appeal, like the actual Appeal, this is a Christmas spin-off, following an Amdram group called the Fairway Players, and there's been a murder, but we don't know who's been murdered, we don't know who the victim is, and we're finding out pieces of information about the story through a series of correspondence via like email and WhatsApp from various members of the Fairway Players, and it's being examined by 2 trainee lawyers, as The Appeal is as well. I think what I liked about Janice Hallett when I've read her previous work is that I think she's really good at conveying characters through an epistolary format. I think you really get a sense of who the characters are and their personalities, and I think it's very skillful. For me, that's completely missing in The Christmas Appeal. I think the characters just seem like caricatures. It's trying to be funny and isn't really. It makes jokes about like poor people, and it made a joke about like pronouns. So there's like people in this like wealthy part of town who go to this Amdram group who are like disparaging towards poor people, and that's fine. Like, there are people like that. I don't mind there being characters who look down on poor people, because we know that's reminiscent of real life. But when the poor people are like communicating in their messages and emails, it's just like loads of misspellings and just really like basic simple language used, and I just think it's needless. Like, they're from a poor part of town, like it doesn't mean they can't spell, and they don't have like nuanced personalities. I just really didn't enjoy that. But it's short, it's about 200 pages and I'm halfway through now, so I'm gonna keep reading to find out. I still don't know who's been murdered or who like did it, so it's readable definitely, but I probably won't read another Janice Hallett now. I think The Appeal was just like a one-off for me in terms of works by her that I've enjoyed. I'm also reading The Letter for the King by Tonke Dracht. Dutch people, if you're watching, I apologise that I have completely butchered your language, but this is a Dutch author, and this is a classic children's book that's only recently been translated into English. It's a quest fantasy book. A young boy who is about to become a knight, he's just like finishing off his final test, and he gets taken to one side by this person who says, I need you to go and do this quest for me. He knows by leaving the place where he is that he will not be allowed to become a knight anymore, but he knows that he needs to do this quest. He just has this feeling that this is what he has to do, and he's told to deliver a message to this knight. And so he steals a horse to deliver this message to the knight, and when he gets to the knight, he realises the knight is seriously wounded and he eventually dies. He has quite clearly been murdered, and then he says to Tiori, I think his name is, you need to take this letter all the way to the king. And so he's going on this quest to deliver this letter to the king, and then along the way, like, he's getting into danger. Like, there's lots of people after him because he's got this jewel that belongs to the knight, and someone's after him because he's robbed a horse, and it's just, yeah, a pretty typical fantasy. I really enjoy the way it's written, and it's compelling. I'm only about 100 pages through and it's a 500 page chunker, but I'm enjoying it, and I think it's a really nice read at this time of year because even though, at least so far, it's not an explicitly winter setting, I just think it's that kind of book that you can really get lost in, which makes it really good for this time of year. So that is what I've been reading at the moment. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you've been reading in December and what you've been up to. I hope you have a lovely Christmas. If you've made it this far and you don't know what to comment, just leave some Christmas emojis in the comments, and I hope you have a lovely festive season, whether you celebrate or not. I hope it's a cozy and a peaceful one, and thank you very much for watching. I will see you in another video. Bye.